Y'all, this is Richie Tisa, and we are entering part 99 of Who the F Did Portia Marry? Okay, so let's get into the tea. But let me give you this disclaimer before we get into it. I actually recorded the second half of this video first, and then I started to upload, and then I was like, oh, let me just check the rest of my work and my sources and everything. And I discovered this new piece of information. So this is being edited in. So let's get into it, and then you will get to the rest of the video right after. All right, so Portia and Simon are back at it again. All right. So now it seems, according to our friends over at the Neighborhood Talk, that, and according to page 6, that Simon has filed a cease and desist to stop Real Housewives of Atlanta from filming at his Georgia mansion. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. According to this, he sent a cease and desist letter to True Entertainment, the production company behind the Bravo reality series, on Thursday, I guess that's today, to demand that it stops filming at his house amid his divorce from the returning cast member Portia Williams. So filming is in the session, or at least was maybe. Per the document, Simon says he is the legal owner of the Georgia mansion they shared and no longer permits any filming to take place at the residence. Now, it was previously reported that Portia had accused Simon of changing the locks on the home before fleeing to Dubai. However, Simon says Portia showed up to the home with someone who was armed. Okay. Um, I don't know if anybody recalls the details surrounding Simon and Fallon and the way that they ended, but it felt a little petty to me on Simon's behalf. But I guess that depends on whose side of the fence you might be standing on. But what I always say to you guys is this: you have got to pay very close attention to how people respond when they get angry. Okay, when they get angry, when they don't get their way, you have got to look at how they maneuver with other people, because it will ultimately tell you, when the ish hits the fan, exactly how they will treat you. Okay? So, am I surprised by this? No, I'm not. We had just gotten the post from Lauren, I guess, yesterday or the day before, basically sort of insinuating that he was angling for a peach, a plum, a piece of bubble gum. I really don't know. What I do know is that things have just gotten worse. So, what does that mean for filming? Hopefully Portia still has her old house that she can film it, or maybe she have to go to her mama's house. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But what Simon says is is that it won't be here in my mansion. Go figure. All right, y'all. So that's the T. That's update number 99 on who the F did Portia marry. Now, since something else happened, Richie Tisa, just kidding. Just kidding. Um, we'll be back with more. I'm sure there will be more, because this is the story that just won't quit. All right, so let's move on to our next topic. Yesterday, we talked to you guys about, Tamra Judge from the Real Housewives of Orange County and Teddy Mellencamp, um, who I think lasted all of 2 seasons on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills before it finally occurred to production that she just did not fit. They have a podcast, Two T's in a Pod. I personally do not listen to this podcast, but I respect it. You know what I'm saying? I respect it. Get your hustle how you can. And I do think it's very interesting to hear, I think, clips of it from the perspective of people who have been on the show, right? That's kind of how I got started in this whole situation, in this whole space. I was always interested in reality TV. Then I had the opportunity to do reality TV mixed with my background in news and journalism and mass communications and public relations. And I just thought it all kind of worked well together. But now I'm just, I just consider myself a fan of the genre, right? So with that being said, she of course, Teddy and Tamara did agree that they felt like Wendy was due for her pink slip. Now, for me personally, I don't know if, as someone who was also given a pink slip, I would really be talking about somebody else that should get a pink slip, especially in the situation where I love Tamara on OC, but she too, left according to sources because she was only offered 3 episodes and then ultimately brought back, right? So I don't know if I would, if I think it's an interesting space where you start, especially if you've been on the shows and you have been let go, you start talking about other people who you think should be let go. You might just want to keep it to the episodes, right? But everybody got an opinion, so let's get into what Wendy had to say as her clap back. And she had this to say. She says, "Got it. You at Teddy Mellencamp just wanted my attention. Hashtag hi Karen." She waves and then she hashtags RHOP. Now, what we see here is that she has posted a screenshot of 2 messages from Teddy Mellencamp saying, one, on March 1st, 2023, "Dr. Wendy, I hope you're well. Your reunion performance should definitely be taught in Housewives 101. Would you be able to come on 2Ts in a pod with me and Tamara next Tuesday, March 7th? We'd love to chat with you." Okay. Now, I don't know if that went unnoticed or not. It appears like it was either left on red or not read. I cannot tell. And then it says here, on November 3rd, "Just bumped into your husband walking down the hall. Come on the pod today. We have a suite. We are podcasting at the Four Seasons." Now, this sounds more like it could have been coming from, the BravoCon or whatever the situation may be. I don't know. I was not there. Meanwhile, let me give you my thoughts on Wendy's response. Okay, I would have just simply said, "Got it." At Teddy Mellencamp, just wanted my attention. Still ain't getting it. I don't know, something. I probably actually wouldn't have even responded, just knowing where I'm at. I mean, I did tell y'all the Lord was working on my spirit of petty. So, I mean, it's a toss up given today, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, it's an opinion, and that's really all it is. But I guess for Wendy, she was like, "Well, dang, last year you was complimenting me, and now you're saying that it's time for me to go." Well, unfortunately, as a housewife, you are only as good as your last season. I mean, and that's just what it is. And so there are people out there I have seen in the comment section who do feel like it's Wendy's time to go. But I still feel like I want to see what more Wendy can bring to the show. And I also think it will be interesting because you have very much broken up some dynamics because, as the Jasmine brand has reported, Robin is gone, and then we know that Candace is gone as well by her own choice. So now you have Giselle without her bosom buddy, and then you sort of have Wendy without her closest ally. Now we can actually see what will come of this dynamic, right? So that's where I'm at with it. Let's see what happens, right? But Teddy also had her own thing to say. Okay. Again, shout out to our friends over at OMFG Reality TV. She responded and said, "Got what? That I wanted you on our podcast before watching this season?" Notice that's when the DM stopped. You would think that with 4 degrees, you could come up with something more original than Karen. Now, listen, y'all know I don't really see it all too much for Miss Teddy Mellencamp. who not Giselle, but Garcelle labeled a gnat. Y'all know what a gnat is? One of them bugs that just be flying around and you just want to swish away. Because that's what it seemed like Teddy be like on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills when they keep trying to bring her around. Kyle keep trying to make fetch happen. We get more. Kyle brings Teddy around more than she's willing to talk about her marriage that Mauricio is willing to talk about on a whole different show, on a whole different network, on Buying Beverly Hills, which I ain't seen yet, but I done seen the clips and I got more from him than I got from Kyle all season, which is, it's just, I knew it was going to happen that way. I knew it. I swear for God, and we about to talk about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in just 1 second. I swear for God. That's why I was like, you know what? I ain't gonna even review this season because something told me I was gonna end up frustrated. And I did. And I did. And I did. So anyway, I haven't said all that about Teddy. Okay. Now, I'm sure in person she's probably just a nice woman or whatever like that. And I do feel for her because she has been definitely, very transparent about her battles with, the I think the melanomas and things like that. So I think she is brave in sharing that message, and I think it's very nice that she does that in the spirit of total fairness. Also, in the spirit of total fairness, I mean, her response to Wendy, she got. I ain't gonna say she 4+4=8, but I mean, she did snap a little bit. She snapped back. Um, I didn't really understand why why Wendy called her a Karen. I didn't associate the actions with that of a Karen per se. Maybe it was because she is a white woman. I really don't know. But I think it does take a little bit more than being a white woman to be a Karen. But Wendy may have had her own perception, and that's why she called it that. I didn't see it for that situation, and I guess neither did Teddy. What do y'all think? Let me know in the chatterization down below. Again, I disagree. I think that Wendy should stick around for another season. Let's see what happens, especially because we're losing two pivotal pieces of the puzzle that have been very, very solid staples on Potomac, that being Robin and Candace. Let's move on to Miss 8.5, okay? We was talking about Beverly Hills earlier. Now let's really get into the tea with the Beverly to the Hills. Let me pull up, because y'all know I like a little show and tell, and I also like to be able to shout out my peoples and whatnot. And we're gonna shout out Mr. Housewives for this post. Now, when you see this headline, it says 8.5's husband accuses cast members from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills of saying the slurs and being anti-blacks. Okay. And basically talking about Crystal and Garcelle. Now, before we get into the actual factual or at least what was allegedly posted here, okay? 8.5 would be Miss Anarie Wy, okay? Anarie Wy, who has been basically dubbed a one and done because she is not returning to the Real Housewives of the Beverly Hills. I don't guess she was asked back. Probably shouldn't have been asked forward, but it is what it is. And we had to do some experimentations and we saw what we got. Now, normally I was actually excited. I was like, oh, and first I was like, oh, then have another black woman on there. It'll be nice. We're getting more diversity in Beverly Hills. Yeah. But she actually turned out to be a nothing burger, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But anyway, in her husband's opinion, she was a nothing burger too. Because guess what? Let me read y'all what he had to say via his Twitter. Now, if you don't know who this man is, his name is Marcellus Wiley. Okay. Now he has had a very controversial. Okay. Um. There's been some controversy surrounding him that came out after the season wrapped. Let's just leave it at that. Some of which you can find in this post, which is why it's going to be in the description of this video if you're watching it on the tube. All right. So he says, look at these BSers opening up Pandora's box. Interesting. Pandora. Okay. He says, Crystal knows dang well my wife is not a Trump. So I don't know. This must be in response to something that maybe Crystal said in an interview or something like that. I really don't know because they have been going at it for much of the season or whatever about who said what to whom and when and how it was said and who got what right as it relates to Anne Marie's actual profession or whatever like that. Anyway, so Crystal knows dang well my wife is not a Trump supporter, but even if she was, who the heck are you to politically police her? Crystal also knows her virtue signaling, but shouldn't be saying the word ninjas in videos. A word I don't I don't know even use. I'm guessing maybe he's saying he don't even use. I personally do not use that word either. I say ninja in its place, but if I'm saying ninja, I probably almost might as well be saying the other word, but it does sound a little bit better in terms of not, violating any things on YouTube. So anyway, but she has. So he's accusing Crystal of using the word ninjas on video or whatever like that. Then he says, worse, she doubles down on dumb. Basically, now you're calling this woman I mean, you are essentially, man, calling this woman, okay, dumb by implying my wife who she has to vote for since she's black. Hashtag Crystal Biden. Okay. Um, I don't know what that was supposed. I don't know what the Crystal Biden was supposed to be. I don't know if that was supposed to be a diss towards her voting for Biden. I guess I would be Richie Biden as well. I mean, it is what it is. I listen. I'm not here to police who you vote for. I'm telling you to vote responsibly. And with that being said, know what your candidates stand for outside of just what you see on the news, and make sure that you read any documentations and projects associated with such candidates. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Anyway, he goes on to say Garcelle puts the con in confused. Now you're calling Garcelle the it's the equivalent to me of calling her a con, but that's just me and my perception. Then he says, acts pro black, but stays hating on black women in a desperate attempt to stay fancy on a show with no blacks. That would be a difficult thing to say when your wife was on there and Garcelle also is black, Haitian, as well as Cherie was on there, who I really was hoping was going to bring the heat, as well as there was another young lady that attended a party. I believe, I cannot remember who she was, but she was on there. Was she at Crystal's house and she was asking some questions? I was like, now that's who y'all need to bring on right there. I can't remember her name. If somebody know her name, chime down in the chatterization down below. Anyway, he goes on to say, let's be real. My wife wasn't good on Housewives. Well, that ain't a lie. I mean, this is coming from the same man who did call his wife a 8.5, which she did proudly announce. I guess being an 8.5 is better than being a solid 8. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, for me, if we married, you better be calling me the 10 to the 20. If you calling me an 8.5, I mean, that's stating to me that you think you could do better. All right. Anyway, he says, personally, I'm glad she's off the show. She was a horrible fit. We all saw it, and it was obvious why. It's impossible to truly know how fake you have to be to actually be a real housewife. I guess that was the read right there, that there's some fakery going on, which that ain't always a lie. Okay. He I mean, and even when you had go back, if you go back to Anne Marie's page and you read her, basically her statement about why she was not returning or whatever, or not asked back, it was basically she was blaming it on she did what she was asked to do, and she should have just went in trying to be herself. So I think she basically was implying that the producers were maybe, allegedly, I'm just assuming, basically saying that, maybe she was being prompted to ask these questions about Sutton's esophagus. Anyway, a lot of this is stemming from the fact that there was a report that the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Anarie was allegedly fired from the show for her right-wing views, including her support for Trump, Candace Owens, and other opposition to transgender athletes. Wiley was reportedly released from the show for clashing with other housewives over her political views. According to a source who spoke with the Daily Mail, Chinese-American Crystal Kung Minkoff, who was on the show, couldn't comprehend how Wiley, I guess maybe being a black woman, could support Trump. The Chinese American openly struggled to understand why a woman of color would be aligned with Trump, the source said. Then it goes on to state that she was open and proud to be Team MAGA and a staunch Donald Trump supporter. This is, again, coming from some several sources. So I'm just putting these together. Now, again, we keeps the alleged badge up here, as we tend to do. I am simply reading to you what the news has been reporting. Wiley also allegedly faced backlash when she defended her husband, former NFL player Marcellus Wiley, who opposes transgender athletes. Allegedly, this is what was stated from a source, during the reunion taping, Garcelle Beauvais expressed her disgust with that Anarie was a fan of political conspiracy theorist Candace Owens and said it told her all she needed to know about Anne Marie. So for me, when you really dig into the history of and I'm gonna let you do that for yourself because it's a topic I can't talk about here. But dig into this post and then dig into more about Marcellus Wiley, and I think, will understand a bit more about why I think personally he should probably just stay off the Twitter with regards to these women on this reality TV show. Now, I understand it's in defense of his wife, but what you should be defending, sir, is you calling her an 8.5. That's really the only thing that I want to hear you defending. I would have just simply said, you know what, my wife is off the show. I think it was the right decision. I'm super happy she's at home. I apologize for ever insinuating that this woman was an 8.5 when in fact she is the entire 10.9876543 and the 1. Okay? That's what he should have been saying on the Twitter. All right? So that's my thoughts. That's my 2 cents. And like I said before, regarding your political stance, know who you voting for, why you voting for them. Okay, you ain't got to tell nobody, but just make sure you read in all documentations and projects and things like that so you are well informed going in on what your vote actually means. That's all I'm going to say. Now, with that being said, once again, today's song of the day is Texas Hold'em by Beyonce. I felt like doing this song of the day is just a little extra added bit, a little commentary that we can have and have a little fun with. I myself am super excited about this country album that's coming out. This Beyonce album that just so happens to dive into the country aspect of her roots. I'm super excited about that. And I will be waiting up at midnight with the bells on, I'm sure, like many of you, and my cowboy boots on. And I got to go and get me a Stetson hat so I can therefore run around all. Y'all, should we do a rodeo? Should we do a Richie? That's the live show right there, baby. Anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna catch you all in the next video.